Let's talk about what might be coming down the road politically here a little bit with our next table. Jane Duker, government and media attorney, coming fresh from the Stenger campaign is where I saw you there. And then from the Stream campaign, Greg Keller, a principal at Atlas Strategy Group. So a couple of thinkers on this very topic. First, before we go forward, let's go back just a little bit. What did you make of the story that was breaking the night of the election when it came to people waiting in line and a lack of paper ballots? It seemed like some issues we had in August, we had again in November.
Yeah, it was a lot of the same issues that were in the primary, running out of ballots, except it happened a lot earlier. I heard as early as 9 a.m. there were paper ballots, out at certain precincts.
And is that a big deal? Because what's wrong with using the electronic ballot? Is there a group of people that wants to?
There are a group of people that believe, they want the actual piece of paper with their vote on it, and they believe that that's safer, and we offer it. So if we offer it, you have to make it function properly. And the problem is, and it really showed itself at the end of the evening, when paper ballots had to be printed out at the election board and had to be, card or driven up all the way to North County at 7 o'clock at night. You can't close the polls down because everyone in line gets to vote. And so, we got very, very late returns because of the paper ballot issue. So it did reverberate all the way through. There were reports of people leaving because they said, okay, it'll be 5 hours until you get a paper ballot. Some people weren't happy with that, or they just were sick of waiting in line. And if they're waiting for ballots and the line holds up, and we can do better. We can do better, and we have to do better.
Mm-hmm. This is the rare issue, I think, where you're seeing in politics that Democrats and Republicans can agree on. When the election authorities say that they're going to print enough paper ballots so the people who want to use the paper ballots can do so, we need to make sure that they're delivering on that promise. I think I saw a photo from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch today that showed people who were staying at the polling locations as late as 1 in the morning in order to make sure that they could vote. That's not a good thing.
It's unacceptable. I mean, and we had that problem in 2008, and we need to be doing better, and we can be doing better. So I know that County Executive-elect Stenger and others have already said we want to get to the bottom of this. We want an investigation of this. I know the board has expressed interest, the St. Louis County Election Board, and they should, because this shouldn't happen.
Is it too soon to talk 2016 and the governor's race specifically? Or do we already know who might be running?
Oh, I mean, I think, we know some people who are running. I mean, but how this is all going to turn out, I think, is going to be interesting. I mean, I still think we're seeing a primary on the Republican side with former Speaker Catherine Hanaway and Auditor Schweik, and I don't think that's sort of played itself out yet. That may continue, it may not. Right now, really, the only announced candidate is Chris Koster, the Attorney General on the Democratic side. So I think, at least for now, it looks as if the Democratic side's a little more stable, but you never know. I mean, I think there's enough of an unstable environment right now, especially on the Democratic side, given what's happened nationally, in the statewide and even locally, that sort of thing can destabilize what was otherwise a steady situation. So.
And the Democrat side for governor here in Missouri is actually a lot less certain than you may think on the surface. I mean, Chris Koster's been absolutely rocked in recent weeks. New York Times front page story raising serious questions about the ethical manner in which he may or may not have been running the Attorney General's office. And there's a lot of buzz out there. I mean, in a lot of Democrat and Republican circles here in Missouri these days, people are asking questions. Boy, where does a front page story like that New York Times hitting Chris Koster come from? A lot of the buzz and a lot of the gossip going on in Missouri political circles these days is that was a story that was planted by Claire McCaskill's people. Claire McCaskill gave over $500,000 to the Missouri Democratic Party over the last couple of years, and there's a lot of buzz that she may be very interested in that gubernatorial mansion herself.
Is that because she doesn't think she can hang on to her Senate seat?
No, I think the question becomes, I think actually the buzz is more prevalent on the Republican side, because I think it's hopeful that the Democrats have a primary as well as the Republicans. But I think the issue is, she has 2 years left, and does she want to be in the minority? Is her draw to wanting to be in governor, because she did run for governor once, and is that draw is that drawing her back to do that? Now, I think with regard to giving money to state candidates, Chris Koster did that. The Democratic Party made a concerted effort to start really helping with these legislative races. It wasn't that effective. I mean, we lost 7 House seats, so I mean, we've got big demographic problems for Democrats in Missouri, and so I think that destabilizes the environment. But I think we'll have to wait to see whether that reverberates from Washington back down to Jeff City.
Yeah, I think Claire McCaskill is and should be very concerned about her ability to hold on to this U.S. Senate seat here in Missouri. You have a number of Republican members of Congress and other people who are licking their chops at the possibility of running against her for Senate in 2018, and understandably so. She would have lost and lost badly had it been anything other than Todd Akin making some very unfortunate and very silly remarks in the closing days of her campaign, of his campaign against her.
Let's theorize about some other individuals and talk about them while they're not here.
Like we love nothing.
No,
Right.
I'm kidding. But some names have come up that a lot of people probably didn't. Well, a couple of people maybe didn't know before this circumstances in Ferguson, and some other folks as well. I want to know. We'll stick with the governor for now. What political future for Jay Nixon after his term is up?
I mean, that's the question of, that question's been asked a lot. He's been very mum about what that's going to be. It's the best kept secret. I mean, it appears from some of the things that he's doing that it would seem that he wants to angle for some sort of political future, but there's been no declaration. He's unequivocally said no to Senate. So that is the question. And I don't know, and he has not said. Yeah. And so he's got 2 years, and I don't know, maybe the Republicans had better speculation than I do.
Yeah, Jay Nixon doesn't have much of a political future. If he ran against Roy Blunt for Senate, he would lose. He's lost every Senate campaign he's gone through here in Missouri, most of them very badly. I was looking, because Tom Schweik won the greatest majority on a percentage basis that we've ever seen in Missouri political history. You know who?
Unopposed.
Yeah. Well,
that helps.
Sure. Well, of course, and there are a lot of reasons he ran
Right.
unopposed.
Well,
and he's been a heck of...
Sometimes the unopposed do get some write-in candidates to the tune of 11,000.
That's what we could talk about. Well, that wasn't write-in, but that was third party, but yeah.
So the point I was going to make was just that when you look at the best performing statewide candidates in the history of Missouri, coming in either third or actually fourth is Jack Danforth in the first 1988 U.S. Senate campaign against Jay Nixon. So I say Jay Nixon doesn't have much of a political future because he can't beat Roy Blunt. His own party doesn't like him. They don't like the way that he's run the governor's mansion. He's done very little to help Democrats up and down the ticket. And because of his horrible fumbling, which has made national news of the Ferguson situation, he stands no chance of getting any sort of appointment in the Obama administration.
Someone who we saw on national news a lot because of the Ferguson situation, the alderman of the 21st Ward in St. Louis, Antonio French. Any indication that he's eyeing a higher office? Is it too soon to talk about?
No, I mean, I think there's, I don't know what office. I mean, clearly he wants to keep a profile, has gained a profile, and wants to keep that profile. Now, how he's going to use that, I mean, there's a number of different ways to sort of be successful in the game without necessarily running for office. And so, he is clearly trying to, and has established a name and a profile over the Ferguson and Mike Brown situation. And so the key will be, will that translate into something that actually, makes change politically, moves the needle? I think that story is still yet to be written, but he's clearly, making a name for himself.
Maria Chappelle Nadal. I'm curious if there's any gossip about her maybe seeking a higher office than state senator.
Well, yeah, no, I think we've seen a couple proxy wars between Senator Chappelle Nadal and Lacey Clay, and so I think we saw that first proxy, in the Josh Peters state rep race, where it was basically, the Maria faction versus the Lacey Clay, and Lacey Clay prevailed. We saw it again in the county executive race with Senator Chappelle Nadal going with Rick Stream and Lacey Clay going with Steve Stenger. So we're seeing that proxy war happen, and it seems that there's been a lot of talk about her taking Lacey on at some point, either this time or next.
These are both very young, very aggressive, very smart, very media savvy Democrats in the county and city area. One thing that's interesting about Antonio French is he's up around 20,000 Twitter followers or something like that.
120,000.
So it's absolutely just ridiculous growth that he's seen in his social networking following as a result of this. It's not even in his district. He doesn't even come from that part of the city. Right. I mean, so these are two young, smart candidates, smart politicians who have made the most of an unfortunate opportunity to really, really amplify their own political statements.
But you bring up something interesting about that, because will that be converted? Will you be part of what happened, or will you be part of the future and part of the solution? And that is where, will they take this, and is it based enough locally that they can turn that into something that locally will actually, turn into something? And so I'm very curious to see how that pans out.
Last name I have on my list, Rick Stream. What's his political future?
I think he still really has a political future. First of all, I mean, just such a decent, hardworking, well-meaning guy. Ran a fantastic campaign, came a lot closer to winning a very difficult seat than most other people. I think probably the Stanger campaign included thought that he could possibly come in. Eric Schmidt is the senator from Rick Stream's district in which he lives, which includes much of Kirkwood. He's going to be running for state treasurer and is going to be out in 2 years. I think a lot of people are thinking that if Rick Stream decides he wants to run for that state Senate seat, it will probably be his for the taking, and by virtue of all the time that he's spent in Missouri government in the House, he'd probably be a great fit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, prior to the Ferguson situation, I think that the whole reason he was running was to sort of establish a name so that he could keep his name up while he waits for the 2 years for Senator Schmidt's seat to
Even
come
he
up.
didn't think he could win. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I think realistically when it started, I think that was probably right. I do think that he ran a good campaign. I think circumstances made it easier for him, and so this was a good opportunity for him, and he did run a good race. I mean, I congratulate him on that, and you know, he's, you know, a good public servant, and so I would doubt that he would be done.
All right, we'll leave it there and see what you're saying with the hashtag StayTunedSTL. Thank you both.